Welcome to the first episode in a brand new series. We are getting into the psychology of high achievers. What drives them? How is it that they are able to keep tapping more and more of their potential? What sets them apart from others? And how can you apply the same mindset, the same principles to break free from patterns that may have you feeling stuck, overwhelmed, or just plain burned out? To kick things off, I've invited clinical psychologist Dr. Christine Lee back on the show. We dig into early conditioning and the core beliefs that shape our personality, the way we work, and the results we get. We also explore why so many of us, including high achievers, tend to tie self-worth to productivity, and what it takes to actually start showing up with more ease, clarity, and confidence. Struggle is optional. And in today's episode, you will get practical, real-life strategies to help you get past the struggle, the overwhelm, and to stop procrastinating, to declutter your mind as well as your environment, so you can move forward with energy and purpose. Whether you are a high achiever trying to find some balance, a perfectionist, a people pleaser, or just plain exhausted from pushing so hard, this series is for you. And today's episode is the perfect place to begin. So stay with me. Welcome to Shift or Get Off the Pot, the podcast that helps you get out of your head and into action so you can make your dreams your reality. Let's get to it. Welcome to the show today, where we are doing a series on the psychology behind peak performance, high achievers, and how they get there. Today, I have a repeat guest with me, clinical psychologist and procrastination coach, Dr. Christine Lee. And she is joining us to help us understand how we get in our own way, maybe what some of our limiting patterns of behavior are, and why and how, maybe knowingly or unknowingly, we hold ourselves back. And more importantly, what to do about it so that you can achieve what you want without going crazy in the process. So welcome, Christine.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to see you again and nice to be back on the show. Thanks so much.
Great to see you again as well. I know it's been several months since we've connected, so I'm glad to have you here. And I want to really get into the psychology behind our behaviors, because as we're talking about peak performance and high achievers and people being able to just, somehow pick themselves up and just go, okay, I'm going to go for it again. I'm going to get back into the game. I'm going to do this again and again and again. And sometimes we see that is just a personality type. And then there's people that have struggled and overcome, but they seem to keep doing this pattern of, oh, I pull myself down and then I get back up again. And it's almost like they have to struggle, what I've witnessed, in order to get themselves back on the horse. And so I would love, from your perspective as a clinical psychologist, if you can kind of explain, is that just a self-sabotaging behavior? I really don't even like the word sabotage because I think our mind's trying to keep us safe. But at the same time, is that just a learned behavior? And is it something that is fairly easy to overcome, recognize and overcome?
Great intro, great questions. And I would say there's a lot of psychology in here because these patterns and our ways of getting through things in general are all so personal, right? And they're all so shaped by where we grew up, who raised us, what influences we had, how we made sense of them. So I think it's really a big pot of soup. And I do think that struggle piece oftentimes it's kind of like the salt that you don't make soup without salt. It gives us the flavor. So soup doesn't taste like soup if there's no salt in it. But I have also found that really struggle is kind of a learned piece of our overall pattern of getting things done, of trying to get through things, of achieving things. And that I do believe struggle is something that we can de-learn, that we can separate our productivity from this story of, oh, I need to work myself up. Oh, I need to avoid for 2 weeks before. Oh, I need to feel embarrassed when. And these are the smaller habits that we might not even consider that are really shaping how we use our time and how quickly we can move forward and how quickly we can get things to market or out into the world. And I really think these are really important things to focus on. So thanks for bringing up the topic. Struggle is optional.
I love that. Struggle is optional, but it's okay, so you're saying it's a learned pattern of behavior and it's something just from our conditioning. It's like, oh, well, it's supposed to be hard. You have to go to school, go to work, get a job, blah, 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 blah. And that's just the way it is. You just pay the bills. You have to take care of it. And then eventually one day you'll get to relax.
I think there's that. And then there's also the struggle means that you're really a responsible person. It means you're kind of virtuous. It has all these other types of connotations, that you're not lazy, that you're not careless. And I think we're really kind of trying to prove ourselves all the time, so many different times across the day. And that's a lot of energy. That's a lot of effort. And I would say when you trust yourself at a certain point in your life or at a certain point in your journey, you can call all that extra energy and effort back, recycle that into, okay, what's next? Okay, how do I elevate my performance? Okay, how do we speed this up? Okay, what do I need to say now, right? How do we actually use our creativity and inborn and learned skill for the purposes that we've designed, right? All this side drama of, oh, did I prove myself enough? Oh, what do they think of me? All that stuff is so not core. It's not the core part of the soup. And so many of us are thinking that it's everything, right? Like if my ego doesn't survive this, then what use is any of my efforts? And I feel like let's get rid of the ego part as best as we can. It's great to feel great when you do something that's of worth, but you're of worth from the get-go, right? It does not have to be a part of the equation, and you can save yourself all that drama, all that agony. Sometimes we bring ourselves to real suffering points in the creative journey. And I'd say let's turn this whole idea into something that's connected with joy and connected with service and connected with opportunity, rather than thinking somebody's going to criticize, someone's going to reject, something's going to fail. This is going to be a waste of all of my resources. Let's stop that fear component when it comes to productivity. That's what I'm in this for, is to just elevate us. Let's not just elevating our work, which we all like to do good work. Really, that's, I think, a very core kind of thing that I found across people, right? I work with a lot of procrastinators, and procrastinators too are really motivated to do good things in the world. They just get a really bad rap. They care actually too much. And then they get into this suffering, drama, time-wasting cycle, and then it becomes all personal and ego again. And let's just get away from that. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay. I love that you brought up the fact that this is really their core beliefs behind this. And so if you're the kind of person that your worth is tied to your efforts or your work, and you believe that your value is in how hard you work. I mean, I saw this so clearly in my childhood, actually, with my mom, because, man, if you were sitting down and resting for a second, you had to get up and do something. You always had to be busy. Get something done, do this, because the worth, it took me a while to understand, but really it was the self-worth was linked for her to being productive or her works. And then when you look at that, and let's say you're trying to change that, if you learn, okay, there's an easier way to go about this, it's going to be hard to do that, because even though there's an easier way and it might make sense in your mind, right? Unless you correct that core belief, you're going to equate that easy way with laziness. And then that just devalues yourself. Am I right in following that? It's almost like this self-perpetuating cycle.
You are totally right. And that is just the power of our beliefs, right? What Kim has just said explains why we have to be very specific and conscious and selective and really crafty, right? Crafty in all the senses of the word. We have to be really good at deciding what we're going to believe about how we work and how the world works and how productivity works. Because if you're going to hold on to the productivity means self-worth, then you're going to have this, I must always be maintaining a productive self then, right? I never get a break because I always want to make sure I'm of value. Who would want to give that up, right? Except when you do realize, you know what? Other people don't seem to be working as hard as I am. Other people seem to not get crushed when they get a rejection or something doesn't work out. And then you realize there are other patterns of belief that are just as viable and maybe are actually better suited to your life and how you work than the one your mother happened to come up with. And she came up with hers for lots of good reasons, and maybe that worked for her, right? We have to just say our parents did their best, but we get to, especially as adults, as full-grown adults, decide, you know what? I get to decide. I get to decide on this core soup level. What are the beliefs that are driving my machine? Right? My way of operating in the world. It's so big.
Well, and it's looking at other people and saying, wow, if they can do it, or it seems so easy for them, and recognizing that without an attitude, and I say this because this is what I witnessed, it is not having an attitude of jealousy or pissed off. Look how easy it is for them. They've got it made, or they've got this, instead of kind of victim mode, really, instead of looking at it and saying, oh, wait a minute, if it works for them, maybe it can work for me as well.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. I think whenever we turn external events into reasons to criticize ourselves, there's something up there, because really, when you think about it, why are we here? Are we really here to be constantly looking for reasons to criticize ourselves? I'm just going to argue no. Let's just try a different option. Let's just say we're here to explore, and we're here to expand, and we're here to find what really feels good for us, right? And so when you have that kind of philosophy, perhaps, or that kind of stance, and where everything feels a little more easy breezy than so weighty, maybe you can look at what somebody's doing and say, what are the good things about this? What am I attracted to? What am I jealous of all of a sudden? And look at that and say, oh, this could all be part of my new recipe. It's not a she wins or he wins over me. It's kind of like we all get to thrive. It really is this, we can just look for all the benefits, look for all the shortcuts, not criticize ourselves for working less, but enjoying that new piece of our lives. How did you manage to develop your own stance around productivity, given that your mother was really high on, you never rest, you can always do something more? I'm just wondering that, if you don't mind.
Well, because two parents, and my dad was the opposite. So, and I'll be honest that it was difficult because I kind of felt caught in the middle. I saw on one side my mom that was so tied to the works was your worth was tied to your works, right? And on my dad, he did the majority of his business. 90% of his business was done on the golf course. It was a relationship built business, and he enjoyed everything he was doing. And I saw such a difference with that. Whereas my mom was more about struggle, my dad was more about happiness and living in the moment. And so for me, it was, oh, how do I, as a child, right? You want to appease both parents. And so you're kind of like, oh, how, you're going back and forth. But I think when I realized that I got into sales early on, and when I realized that, okay, I can enjoy what I'm doing, thrive in it, make some money and have fun. And it doesn't have to always be this struggle. It did, I think that helped quite a bit, but I think it really came from watching my dad and what was working for him. And then seeing how he was thriving in that environment. Now, when I started my own business, that changed a bit. I did dip. I went back to, hustle, got to work. And I had to put on the brakes and go, wait a minute. This isn't working. What am I slipping? But that's self-exploration. And mostly because, in sales, you do a lot of personal development because they're really linked. And so a lot of that was working with mentors and going, wait, why am I slipping back into this? Which really led me into understanding the mind and the workings of it and understanding the psychology behind these patterns and all of that. Because otherwise, I think it's like you said, it is a learned behavior, and it's really easy to slip back. Really easy to slip back into that.
Yeah. These were our earliest models. And a lot of people in the world function with these models. So it makes sense that we would, under times of stress or uncertainty or times of new challenges, we're going to slip backwards. And I feel like that's okay too. That's, again, our bodies and minds showing us what we're made of, what is possible, what we came from. And it's when you adopt a philosophy of it's all okay and it's all happening for my eventual and inevitable growth, then you can survive the slips backwards like you have so beautifully. And like you said, you turn that into, wow, I was really getting to be more aware of mindset and philosophy and psychology. And this is where life starts to get richer and richer when you can observe from an observer point of view instead of feeling like you're in the middle of everything all the time, kind of grasping for straws and gasping for air. It's a much more steady way of saying, I've got this. We're going to move forward. I'm confident. Let's go.
Yeah, I've got this. I'm confident. Let's go. But I will tell you that it can feel messy at times. You're kind of sitting there going, oh my gosh, where you're spinning. It's easy to get caught in that. So you're right. You have to step back and kind of look at your life as this objective observer and kind of go, okay, watch what's really going on here. And then asking a lot of questions. That's what I found has helped, is ask a lot of questions about, okay, why am I doing this? And what was my earliest memory of this? And then a lot into the feeling of it. How did I feel then? And then kind of taking that a little bit further and saying, okay, but is that really true? And is it serving me? And does it really work in my life? And it is, I still think though, that it is, as much as you want to grow and you want to go, okay, I just want it to be a little bit easier and such. I think it's a daily practice because it's so easy to just let something trigger, right? And you'll go, oh, okay. And then you have to catch yourself and go, no, I don't want to do it that way anymore. Or no, that doesn't work for me anymore. I'm going to choose a different thought. But you have to stay with it regularly.
Yes. You know what you're making me think of is, because I'm a psychologist, I'm thinking way back when I've been a psychologist for 25 years. So somewhere in the middle of those 25 years, I decided that I had seen so many people struggling with themselves, right? Struggling with anxiety, with fear, with self-doubt, that I just turned that part of myself way down, where I decided that clearly anxiety is not getting anyone anywhere that is better.
Yeah.
That if anything, we're trying to remove anxiety from the equation. And that really had such a positive effect on my life. And I come from, I think, a lot of years of procrastination, high anxiety, really negative, catastrophic thinking. And when you're able to kind of transform that into just a steady state, calm belief system, it really is a sign you can change anything, right? You can change a feeling of panic into a feeling of calm. And then you're basically operating like two different people in the world, right? You get different opportunities when you're presenting in a calm way than when you're thinking you need to run and hide or run and do more work and lose some more sleep and turn down some more social invitations. Like, that's long ago for me. And I just want to encourage anyone who's listening, who's in this period of struggle or self-doubt or self-sacrifice, that to really be curious, like Kim is suggesting, and know that there are definitely other avenues that you can take. It's optional. You don't have to choose them, but just know that the way you're going, the one that feels so arduous, really is not the only path to take.
There's so much power in decision. And when you said, I made a decision, I looked at all of this and said, okay, I've got to make a decision here. And you're so right. It's like worry serves no purpose. Anxiety, nothing. Panic. I used to get panic attacks when my parents first got divorced. And I can remember just driving down the freeway and thinking, oh my gosh, something's going to happen, and then talking myself through it and thinking, it sucks. Like, I can't imagine living with that, because I do know people that suffer panic attacks quite frequently. And I'm like, that kind of stuff. You have to really be able to talk yourself out of that. And it's hard when you're spinning in the moment, and not just panic attacks, anything, when you're spinning with self-doubt or struggle.
Yes. And I would say these feelings are very real. The feelings that we need to launch ourselves into panic. This is all because of real things that are also happening, right? It's not all imagined. Sometimes the intensity can be just a self-generated, habitual kind of thing, especially panic attacks, right? We oftentimes, when there's a panic attack, there are several panic attacks. It was one of the first things I learned as a psychology trainee. And it was fascinating to me because the pattern of just being locked in suffering was something that was really painful to witness as a young trainee. But it also gave me such a window into how, again, our beliefs are so powerful that they can turn around and be the boss of us instead of us being the boss of our nervous system and our belief system. So nervous system regulation is very current these days, I think, in social media and different books that are being published recently. And I just think, just like you said a few minutes ago, make this nervous system consciousness the practice, right? That is a daily, multiple times a day practice of checking in with yourself, knowing that it's okay to not be productive right at this moment. It's okay to be reflective about what is making me feel this way. Are there other ways through? Can I bring myself to a calmer state and still maintain a flow forward, right? Because action is always really helpful, I think, especially when we're feeling stuck or overwhelmed. And just to have a peaceful resolution of a more stressful time. I think it's always okay to feel like I can always win. I can always make a win out of whatever situation I'm in. And I also want to mention, Kim and I both have had the benefit of lots of different coaches. We don't want to be here saying, oh, I've transformed from here to here, without mentioning that we've had a ton of support, a ton of guidance from people who were a few steps or miles ahead of us. And this allows us to come here and say, let's get you a couple steps further, a couple steps more calm and more healed so that you can feel this calm as well.
Thank you for that. And you're right. I mean, you do have to have, I fully believe that you have to have some support along the way. And I think I have found that in different mentors over the years, which has honestly been a game changer for me, because I know that somebody's got my back, somebody that I can talk to and say, whoa, wait a minute, what's happening here? I can see it, but I'm not sure what my next step is or how I'm going to get through it. And then going, okay, I got to just sit back here and look at it a different way. Or you get a fresh perspective on something, or someone challenging you and asking those deeper questions that go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But you brought up something where you said, when we were talking about panic attacks, that beliefs are so powerful, but we allow in those situations our beliefs, and in many situations, especially when we're derailing our own success, our beliefs to control us rather than us taking control of the beliefs. And I think that is so key, because that to me is the secret sauce. Like, you have to understand, what are my core beliefs that are dictating this pattern of behavior? And, as you said, as a procrastination coach, you obviously see this a lot. It's like, okay, what is the core belief behind that? Is it perfectionism? Is it, efforting? I believe in a lot of effort. Is it that you just I'm so overwhelmed, or that you get yourself in a cycle of like, I can't show up anymore, or I'm no longer, everything used to be so easy for me, and now I'm married, I have children, I have more levels of responsibility, and I don't know what to do. So we just shut down. And is that all part of a underlying belief?
I think everything that you just said can be put under the umbrella of I've lost belief in myself. So one of the most powerful negative beliefs is that I can't believe in myself. And that might be temporary, because sometimes you believe in yourself, hopefully. But a lot of times we can slip and say, I can't believe in myself because I'm going to be on stage soon, or because there's money at stake, or because I've never done this before. And it makes sense that we would kind of slip in this way, but that slip has some costs, because it leads into, well, this is not possible. This is really scary. This can't be done. And that's really costly, because then we stop moving at the same rate. We stop saying yes to things. We stop performing. We stop showing up. And again, this happens in small and lots of big ways as well. But the smaller ways, sometimes it's like you avoiding recording something, or you avoiding dreaming bigger, right? Because somehow you only think you can go this far with your business or with your time use, right? All of this stuff is part of the same soup again, right? We're looking for big time soup, best tasting soup ever. We don't want to just, people who are listening to your podcast, they want peak performance. They want thriving businesses. They want lots of opportunities. And again, we have to have our self-belief matching that dream. It has to be high as possible, as consistently as possible. That's where the coaching comes in. That's where the curiosity about, how did I dip? Why am I dipping so low all of a sudden, right? That's where you're keeping yourself in the game. And it is a game. When you remember that this is a game, and I heard this today on social media, without failure, the game's no fun. Yeah. If there really wasn't a learning experience, or the chance that you would fall flat, it really wouldn't feel so charged. And you might not be as interested in it as you are, right? So allow it all to be on the field. Allow all of yourself to come to play, right? And it's a practice again of getting familiar with all of those different identities within you. I have learned this very recently because of two books that were recommended to me. One is called The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, and the other one is Existential Kink. And both books are very interesting. They're not your typical beginning, middle, end books. They really go deep, and they talk about the parts of ourselves that are our shadow parts, the parts that maybe we're not so proud of, we're not really wanting to show other people. We may not even want to recognize ourselves. And I just thought, wow, how did I get through 25 years and not know about these books and not know about this part of psychology, about the part that we want to, split off and not be associated with. When we make friends or when we accept all of the parts of ourselves, again, that allows us to show up much more vibrantly and fully and confidently because we've made peace with the parts that we used to be ashamed of. And that's all this procrastination, coach business stuff that I do, and just making everything be like a lot lower stakes, right? Sometimes the stakes that we're playing with, they're dramatized, right? They are exaggerated. A lot of things really don't matter. And we're using all of this energy to kind of prop ourselves up and make sure everybody's happy when really like everybody's okay. Everybody's a grown adult. Your business is going to be fine when you show up, right? Yeah. When you decide everything's okay when I show up and when I put my best foot forward and it's okay to slip and I've got this. It's okay. I'm safe.
Yeah, I've got this and I'm safe. And it's not our responsibility to worry about other people or what they think and what they're doing and how they're showing up. But I love what you started with there and that you said, I lost belief in myself. Do you think that people in your practice, do you think that most people are aware that that's what's going on? Or are they just looking at really the symptom and saying, oh my God, this isn't working right now?
I really don't think that people understand that self-belief is core to most things. I don't think it's in, some parents understand to teach this to their children. Many do not. And we're trained into so much materialism, right? Success and status, all sorts of things that are external to us. And so what do we do? As soon as we get into school, we start thinking about how do I prove myself? How do I get that grade? How do I get into that group? But we're taking the focus away from what's happening from within. And I think that is the job of your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, and beyond, right? After you have your achievement building phase of life, which can go into your 30s and 40s even, I think after that, it's really a kind of return to let's get comfortable and reacquainted with who I am and what do I really care about and who am I aside and outside of my work.
Yeah, aside and outside of my work so that you're separating it and really understanding yourself, showing up more as a whole person. I love that. The work that you do with people that tend to, because it's primarily a lot of people that do procrastinate, right?
Yeah.
For one reason or another. So what do you think is, other than, I know there's obviously a belief behind it, but is there any one thing that you could point to with people that procrastinate that you say, oh, they're doing it because they're avoiding X, Y, and Z?
I used to always say it's a fear of some kind, and I do still believe that that's true. I think on a deeper level, it's this self-belief issue where there's some rift or gap or vulnerability piece, and it can ring really loud in our hearts and our minds when we're thinking, oh, I don't have what it takes. And then that becomes all of a sudden a safety issue. And as we've been mentioning, when there isn't a core feeling of safety, almost nothing can make us violate this rule of we keep ourselves safe at all costs. I mean, that's basically the central rule. And when you see that we're basically always safe, you then get to bypass all of that automatic procrastination. I just made that term up, but it's that instinctual, oh, I need to delay first. And I really feel like that was just something maybe that I came to this planet with, that I see myself as an overcomplicator, sometimes an overthinker, a delayer. I'm relatively slow in how I move. So all of those pieces put together led me to procrastinate and delay first rather than say, okay, let me at 'em. Let me go play, sign me up. I was always kind of the one hanging back. And I just had to kind of train myself out of those habits because they are habits also.
Ah, that's key. They are habits. And so those habits are the things that are started from the beliefs. Then you get the habits that are dictating the behavior.
Typically, yeah, that's the structure. And I'd say anything that you can change, we can call a habit because there are things like our hair color. I joke that, I do change my hair color, but, my hair is always going to be black, right? And that's something, not a habit, right? But how I see things, I can change that, right? How I present myself, I can change that. That's habitual sometimes. And when you see everything as being flexible, it's just more opportunities, more room for play and experimentation and for messing up. But again, we're not going to be afraid of messing up anymore. It's just part of like living. It's part of knowing ourselves. You have to know where you mess up to know where you're strong and where you need some work too. It's all okay.
Yeah, you have to mess up to know where you're strong. That's a great point.
Yeah.
And it is all okay. You mentioned about the habits and that they can be changed and everything. Do you think, because I've heard all sorts of times on habits, 21 days, 40 days, 60 days to really get through that. Have you found in your practice that there is a certain amount of time that really does help to change, that you have to stick with something in order to change those habits and make them more permanent?
I am not, I would say no. The answer is no to that because I have seen people change like that. Mm-hmm. So it's a real range. I don't put a time limit. I don't put a time expectation. I do have a belief that people can change pretty quickly once they get it. So it's a matter of how long do we need to talk or go through stuff before there's a real desire to live with the other part or the other option, right? And again, that could be like the person's been waiting for this moment, this one word or this one opportunity to talk about it, and then they flip. So it can be really short. I wouldn't assume that it's going to take 67 days to change. I've heard 67, 79, 21, right? But those are all beliefs too, right? Because
that's a great point.
Because when you decide to change, you're already a different person. That decision, even before you've done any implementation, you've become a different person. So let's go with we've got ultimate flexibility as a player.
Yeah. Great point, because you're right. It's that decision. And when you make that decision, and I said earlier, decision's so powerful because when you make that decision, a lot of things happen. That's, I think, when the shift starts to happen, because then you can say, okay, I've decided this is no longer serving me, or I've decided that I'm going to get up and go do this every day now. And it's just, then it's sticking with it. But I love that it can happen very quickly because just like you, I've heard all sorts of times. And you're right, that is a belief because now you're putting the power, or you're giving that power to the amount of days. And then what happens at day 45, and it's supposed to be day 43 that, everything shifts and all of a sudden something happens and you slip back.
And again, beliefs, right? Beliefs creep in or rush in, and then you're derailed. You don't have to be derailed because your plans changed. Right? It's just like you say to yourself, the plan changed. It's okay.
Yeah. It's flexible.
It is flexible.
I love that. It's flexible. I know that you have a workshop coming up, right? For people that have been maybe procrastinating or in overwhelm. Re-energize your home?
It is called Re-Energize Your Home. Thank you for mentioning it. It's actually a 5-day challenge, which is actually a 7-day challenge. I call it a 5-day challenge because 5 of the days, we're going to start May 26th on Memorial Day, actually. And it's okay that it's a holiday because it's just 15 minutes a day. You don't have to be there live, but I do encourage you to sign up because you will get instruction on how to start decluttering. And when I say decluttering, it's with a capital D. It's whatever you want to kind of part with, whether it's your physical clutter, stuff that's in your way. I think this is what I'm teaching over the course of this week. And I very purposely put the word energy into the title because I feel what people find when they release things they no longer need is they're missing energy. So the whole point of this is really to show you how much more you have at your disposal, especially when you let things go that you've been hanging on to, fearing that you can't part with. It really is this magical week. I love hosting it. This is going to be my 9th round, and you're all invited to join in. It's really, really fun. It's free. It's online. It's inside a Facebook group, and I have a link that you can sign up with. It's maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com/Kim. Again, it's at maketimeforsuccesspodcast.com/Kim. And feel free to get in touch with me or Kim to get that link if you didn't get that, you're driving or something like that. And I look forward to seeing you at the end of May.
We'll put that link too, also in the show notes. And also I'm going to put those books that you mentioned as well into the show notes also.
Thank you so much.
For anybody that's, wanting to check that out and go a little bit deeper. I love this whole challenge idea because you're so right in that if you can declutter some things mentally, it opens up so much space for you. And you have to let go of things in order to move forward and have the space for something new to come in. And I learned that years ago in just organizing things in my closet and saying, oh, I really want this or that. It was part of like manifestation class that I did, and having to get rid of some things that I was holding on to thinking, I don't know, do I want to get rid of this dress or not? And then all of a sudden it was like, what am I doing? I haven't worn it in a year. Boom, out. And as soon as I started making some space, it wasn't like something new came in right away. But what did happen was that mentally, I opened myself up to more abundance, to other opportunities, and things started to change in other areas of my life. It wasn't just like, oh, I got new clothes. It wasn't that. It was more that I saw that an abundance start to flow in other areas. I love how that works.
I love that. I want to talk to you more about that. and I feel that when I'm working with, whether it's challenge participants or clients around letting things go, there is oftentimes like an argument for keeping stuff from the clients. And I just find myself like, there's so much energy there, right? The energy of clinging or refusing to change. And I feel like I've been saying this throughout our episode. It's okay, right? But we have to look at that, right? We have to look at like, where is that? Like, are you sure you want to use your power for that article of clothing or that piece of paper or that memory? And would you maybe be better served by having that energy be free for manifesting new things or being more available for the next part of your life? And oftentimes I think I'm going to say, yeah, let's head towards the future and our openness, our greater freedom. And in the meantime, let's be patient with ourselves as we grapple with these decisions. I like to make things fun, so this challenge is going to be super fun. And I understand that clutter can be really a painful, dramatic, drama-filled, sentimental process, but we can also thrive in it as well. We can let go, we can be safe, we can be fun.
I don't know. Can you thrive when you're a hoarder?
I'm going to argue that you can. And I think in some ways, the wish behind the hoarding is for safety. And safety means when we have safety, we have fun. Really, they go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
Fun doesn't come until you feel safe. So let's go if we need to. I think that's right. The idea is that there can be a lot of trauma in the hoarding process. Let's get the person back to a state of calm, safety, and then the fun comes. With the space, you have more fun. It happens every time. We see it all the time on social media and in TV, and it can be a long process, but it's a worthy one. Very much
interesting. So people hang on to things more because it's safe and familiar. It feels safe to them.
There are lots of reasons why we hang on to things, right? It can be like
superstition.
I'm going to avoid self-criticism, the criticism of the person who gave it to me, the guilt of waste. Oh my gosh, right? The things
that was
being
my
wasted.
mom's.
Yeah. It's a lot of people's background. And again, it can be direct, it can be indirect messaging as well. Society is piling it onto us with marketing and consumerism and capitalism and stuffism, and it's okay, right? Again, it's like when you decide, I'm the boss of this, I'm the boss of my nervous system, this is either good or not so good for my nervous system, you start to get clarity. You start to get a system of, there's a way to manage all of this, and that can feel really fun.
Yes, I'm the boss of this, and there is a way to manage it. And I think that's so key, because you're right, that it all goes back to those core beliefs, and making that decision is to, am I going to change? Am I willing to change, first of all? Do I want to change? And okay, then what am I going to do next? And getting to it. So I love the fact that you've got this challenge coming up, your 5-day, AKA 7-day challenge coming up. And we will link that down below in the show notes. Christine, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much. It's always fun talking with you. I just adore your mind. I love your way of hosting these podcast episodes. And I'm just really grateful to know you and grateful for the work that you do. So thanks for helping me to showcase what I like to talk about as well.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. I will see you in person again, I think, pretty soon.
Yep, looking forward to it. See you, everyone. Good luck.
Thanks so much for joining me here today. If you want some help achieving your goals, you can grab the Success Bundle link down below, or head over to my website, kimkellythompson.com, where I have several free resources to help you. If you like what you've heard today, please consider hitting that subscribe button and join me throughout the week for episodes that will help you make your dreams your reality. I'll be back again soon with another edition of Shift or Get Off the Pot.